Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Xmen Starjammers Chod Build-A-Figure Wave. Here we have Starjammer CORSAIR, just, CORSAIR. It's always nice when Hasbro does a figure and the figure's really good. Like, here's another example of a really good figure. Same with, like, similar to Cyclops, but Cyclops had, like, all new molding and things like that. CORSAIR is essentially the Vulcan body. I mean, the torso had some adjustments to accommodate this collar piece, but he is essentially the Vulcan body. You know, he's got gloved arms, but at the forearm, you know, it had that separate piece that you could switch out for gloves and things like that. The legs are just straight up Vulcan and everything, but it is just a really good figure. You know what I mean? Like, not every figure has to have unique sculpting and everything like that to truly be a good figure. You know, with even prime example, right? Vulcan was good because that's the new Vulcan body, right? Black Panther, the comic one, used the Vulcan body, but was still such a good figure because the Vulcan body is actually just that good. And I think in time we're beginning to appreciate it more, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. But this CORSAIR figure is really, really nice. Like, it is really good. And it's just paint. You know, there's not like additional sculpting or anything like that. You know, just the gloves and the collar. But it is a really, really nice figure. And it just shows that, you know, the Vulcan body is nice. Like Hasbro, even with some repaints, right? Magic can happen and these figures can be really nice. So it's really cool to see. He comes with the right arm to the Chod Build-A-Figure. At first I was thinking, you know, is completely 100%, you know, an Abomination Build-A-Figure, and that's it. But there are actually some new pieces. Not everything, like half of this is new, because these two pieces right here are Abomination, but the lower portion of the arm is actually new. So you have the shoulder, and then the upper bicep is actually the same as the Abomination Build-A-Figure pieces, but the forearm and the hand are actually different. And I will do an Abomination and Chod comparison when I do that review, but just a heads up on there. So we do get some new things, like we have the fin here. We don't get the fin on the legs, though, so that's where they really cheapened out and just didn't give us anything new for the legs. These feet are the same as Abomination. The legs are the same as, you know, Abomination and Rhino. I have to look, though. Was there always this deep cut in there before? Like, because that's a hell of a bend. I feel like that was not the bend that we had gotten before. So if they made adjustments to the mold in there, why wouldn't they add the fin? Anyway, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I have to really take a closer look at it, you know, later on, and we'll do that. But man, just what an awesome figure in this CORSAIR. Xmen logo there, Xmen logo there. You see Chod. We're gone down to the fourth figure in the wave, CORSAIR. Technically the fifth, because Cyclops is not included on this list. Artwork of CORSAIR there, looking pretty good. You see we also come with fists, because he has the two trigger finger hands out of the package. And then we get fists to go along with it. He's got his sword there, and then he's got his blaster there. So there's the package. Here is CORSAIR. Let's get in for the closer look. Okay, so closer look at CORSAIR. Man, this head sculpt is really, really nice. Really, really good. The digital face print, the inkjet, whatever they call it, came out really, really nice. The sculpt of the hair, it's flowy and everything, looks good. You got the bandana on here, which is a nice touch. It has kind of a flowing look to it. Just a very good head sculpt. He's got the earrings in there. Just really, really nice. Paintwork. At first, you know, I was looking at this, I was like, oh, it doesn't look too good. It doesn't really look bad either, so I'm sure there's going to be some that probably are going to look a little bit off, or there's some that's going to have some paint blemishes and things like that. Mine, for the most part, is pretty good. I have no real complaints or anything like that. In terms of the rest of the figure, not a whole lot of paint going on anywhere else. It's just kind of the black here in the torso that's painted, and then here on the legs, you see the black and the red that's painted on there. And it's done pretty clean. You can see where the line just didn't quite line up there, and the same thing like right over here. Not a big deal at all. You can see it's still pretty clean, and then the rest of the figure down is just all red, but solid, solid, solid. You can see his sword on the sash belt there, just sheaths in there. Let's take a close look at that. The sword is done really nice too. We just have a gold hilt, but we get a nice silver gunmetal color for the blade, the sword portion, which is really nice. I'm glad we didn't get the cheap looking plastic look like we do a lot of times. It is a little pliable, a little flimsy. It did not come warped out of the package, which is surprising and good, so just a heads up on that. We do get this gun here. It is done in an all gold plastic material. it does have a little bit of a peg in there. I don't know if any blasters would peg in there. I don't have anything readily available to look, but maybe something would work. But the sculpt of it looks pretty good. There, he does have the trigger finger hands on both hands, so he can hold it in either hand. There is no holster or anything like that, unfortunately. And again, he just comes with fists. But yeah, solid figure for sure. Now let's go ahead and check out the articulation. Okay, so CORSAIR's articulation, the head is on a disc hinge, so he can look down that much, which is good. He can look up that much. The collar doesn't get in the way, which is great. You can do full rotation, but you would really have to work with that collar piece. Pivot, not really going on in there. I was trying to see if the neck itself is on like a set. It doesn't have any articulation. It is a separate piece, kind of in there along with the collar, but it doesn't have any kind of movement or anything like that. The shoulder you can get to go up and out a little bit there. You get a full rotation, of course. Butterfly joint, which unfortunately doesn't give us the most range going back. Which is tough. You can force it a little bit. You only get that much going back. In terms of crossbody, he can do somewhat, as you can see there. So not the most functional of butterfly joints, but it's nice to have that. If only they could work out the inner workings to get a little bit more range. I know with the Black Panther figure, some people have made adjustments, like Rick Artwood's Toys. You know, he's made some adjustments to give it better range. We have an upper bicep swivel in there. Double jointed pinless elbow gives you that much bend there. Really nice. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. The fists have the standard horizontal hinge, but the trigger finger hands do have the vertical hinge, which is great, because that is the hinge that you should have when wielding swords and guns. So we have the correct hands. Ab crunch on here, so CORSAIR can crunch down forward. Holy smokes, he can crunch down forward all the way, which is pretty crazy. He can go back that much, but that is an ugly looking ab joint there. They should have had a little bit more roundedness to it. Like in the back, it's rounded so it works, but there in the front, not so much. So that kind of sucks, but not that big of a deal in the long run. Waist swivel in there. Legs go out that far apart. He can kick forward that high. Leg doesn't really go back. You got an upper thigh cut in there. It's a little stiff. Double jointed pinless knee gives us that much bend there, which is great. There is the calf swivel, so swivel at the calf right in the middle of it. Foot hinges all the way down. You get some hinge up, ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So good articulation, and because the torso is different from Vulcan, we get that range in the ab, because I don't think Vulcan had that much range coming forward, did he? No, not nearly as much as you could see. So that is a big difference there. Okay, so here we have the Summers family. We've got Dad, CORSAIR, oldest brother Cyclops, younger brother Alex, and or Havoc, and youngest brother Gabriel Summers, Vulcan. So awesome figures that we have here. CORSAIR, Cyclops, Vulcan being the better of the ones. Alex gets the short end of the stick, with Havoc being on an older body that has pins. Dun dun dun. But in all honesty, even this body isn't a terrible body. Sometimes it's been gummy. My Havoc figure is not gummy, which is good. But, you know, it sucks when it's like you have a good body and then it ends up being shit when it's gummy. Not all of them end up like that. It's kind of weird how that all works. But a solid set of figures here. A new Havoc on a new pinless body would be nice to kind of fit with the other Summers guys. But we do have some really solid releases here. And it's funny because Cyclops, CORSAIR being in the same wave, Havoc and Vulcan, I believe, were in the same wave as well. We even have another Cyclops figure, which is the animated VHS one, that is on the Vulcan body, you know, but it with some modifications. That's a really damn good figure too. So it really is Havoc getting the short end of the stick, and we've had two other previous Havoc figures. You know, there's the X Factor one, which is actually a really good figure, and then we have this one, which is still probably my favorite of the bunch. But again, just seeing them all together, it's like, oh man, if only we can get a new Havoc. But definitely some solid releases. Oh, and I want to focus on these three real quick, because they essentially use, well, Cyclops doesn't really use the same base body, but how I measured up, like to Vulcan, how Cyclops is a little bit shorter. CORSAIR is a little bit shorter than Vulcan as well. So these two seem to line up a little bit better. CORSAIR is still a little bit taller because CORSAIR does use these hip pieces that are a little bit longer than the Cyclops ones, as you can see there. So CORSAIR and Vulcan having the same, you know, legs and things like that, you could see And I don't know why that's the case, but he almost looks a little bit shorter. No, I don't know. Maybe these hips sit differently on Corsair compared to Vulcan, because essentially the lower portion is the same. The torsos are different, which would explain the height difference at the shoulders, but it does seem like Vulcan, right? I'm trying to look at these hip pieces to see if they really line up. They're about lined up. Maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. But, you know, Corsair definitely is shorter. So if we look at height-wise, we're going Vulcan, Corsair, into Cyclops. So I just wanted to kind of point that out in terms of, like, the differences between the bodies. So we don't have a whole lot of Starjammers, and I know Binary at one time was part of the group there. So I just wanted to kind of bring her out to show a side-by-side comparison. Older female body, it's just difficult because those legs are so thin, but they measure up pretty well together, and that could work out. You guys let me know down in the comments below, which member of the Starjammers would you like to see get released next? Because there's no way we only get Corsair, and then we only get Chad, and nobody else. Maybe Raza Longknife? That would be pretty cool. That'd be my biggest one, probably, to come out. I think that would make for an awesome action figure, but, you know, we'll see. Okay, so here we have the Chad Build-A-Figure wave so far. So we looked at 5 of the figures. We still have a couple more to go, Kid Omega and Chamber. And then, of course, the Build-A-Figure Chad himself. So we got Emma Frost, Cyclops, Corsair, Fang, Monet Saint Croix. If I were French and could speak in a French accent, New French, it would be Monet Saint Croix. Rich, there you go. I said it correctly if you're going to end up watching this video, but not St. Croix, even though the American and British pronunciation is Croix. I looked that up. But anyway, a decent wave that we have coming around. We're definitely getting some really nice figures. 4 of these are super nice. Fang, not nearly as much. We're still a good figure. Just a couple of things that are just kind of frustrating with it, like the discolorations and things like that. But man, yeah, these 3... awesome. This one, Monet Saint Croix, is really good as well. Better than Emma Frost. Emma Frost has a better look to it. She just can't move for shit. But definitely a better wave initially than I had thought. When we look at in terms of, you know, new molding, new body parts, and things like that, you know, we're pinless all across the way. Kid Omega is going to be pinless. Chamber is definitely going to be the weakest link of the bunch, because there was a couple of different looks for Chamber that they could have gone with, and they went with the easiest route they could go by just essentially doing a suited body type figure with that head sculpt instead of doing something that would match the team with Monet Saint Croix. It's just... that's kind of tough when we get to Chamber. I'm not gonna... He's definitely, again, going to be the weakest in the wave, but definitely a solid wave coming around. You guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this wave so far? What do you think of Corsair? What Starjammers do you think will be coming out next? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that join button to become a channel member and be a part of the MCU Collective. And as always, thank you for watching.